energy. Your way of life depends on it. The bad news, it's running out.
The lights are going to go out. The impact on society could be immense.
The good news, it's being replaced by Mother Nature, harnessed in new ways. The power of wind.
It is clean, it is green, it is the way of the future.
From the moons of Jupiter, a miracle fuel.
This is going to power the planet.
Found here on Earth, at the bottom of the sea. A city run by tides.
We could make New York City the world's largest renewable energy city.
A power surge triggered by the moon. But one power source that outshines them all.
We are taking the power source of the sun.
How a bathtub of water could run your life.
In a world that's hungry for energy, we need all the energy sources that we have.
In a lab in College Station, Texas, lies the best-kept secret in the energy world. A fuel detected in outer space, but only recently found on Earth.
What we're looking at is one of the most concentrated forms of energy that exists on planet Earth. It's the bridge to the future. This is gas hydrate. When we run out of conventional oil and gas, this is going to power the planet.
Gas hydrate is frozen methane. It abounds on the moons of Jupiter. Scientists estimate our own planet holds more reserves of gas hydrate than coal, oil, or gas put together. The trick is finding them. Roger Sasson is mounting an expedition to hunt for the mother lode of gas hydrates. The best place to look is deep underwater, where the pressure and temperatures are extreme. Such conditions can be found 100 miles off the coast of New Orleans, over half a mile down at the bottom of the Gulf of Mexico.
This is a tricky mission. The submersible is good to 3,000 feet. We're diving right at 2,900 and change. There are dangers involved. There is the possibility of entrapment on the bottom. The submarine can get tangled in any piece of gear that's down there that we know about and some that we don't know about.
Okay, Don, here you go. Let me know when you get a seal.
Roger that. All right, Alan, let me know when you get a seal. We have a seal.
Roger. Your lines are clear. Permission to drive. George, out of gear, please.
We're diving.
It takes 40 minutes to descend half a mile to the bottom. The sub has only 3 hours of battery power.
100 feet.
Their destination is nearly 3 times as deep as the most advanced scuba technology can go.
The whole key for us is finding that sweet spot. Outside the sphere at this point, you would just collapse in on yourself like a bag of hamburger meat.
We're 75 feet off the bottom.
And now we're going to pan downward. There's the bottom. In all probability, no one else has ever seen this with their own eyes before.
Okay, we're on the bottom. Our depth is 2,900 feet, 2900.
The sea floor in the Gulf of Mexico is broken by thousands of small fault lines. These fissures make it one of the few places on Earth where gas hydrates seep from the Earth's crust. At this point, finding a gas vent is a matter of following the clues.
There's some crabs, lots of crabs, that are hiding in the light.
Crabs and other creatures are drawn to gas vents to feed.
It's getting interesting at this point.
They're getting close.
Oh, here's the gas bubbles, look. See those bubbles going up?
Okay, we've got an active gas vent.
Deep in the Earth's crust, life from the age of dinosaurs was crushed and cooked. This gas is all that's left. Roger launches a crucial experiment.
We're putting the core tube into the stream of gas bubbles. See it?
If he can collect the gas bubbles here, they might turn into gas hydrate. It's working. Trapped under this extreme pressure and temperature, the gas transforms into an ice-like substance, pure gas hydrate.
That is the world's future source of energy when we run out of gas and oil.
Where there's a vent, outcrops of gas hydrate must be nearby.
Oh, there's some rock. There's some carbonate rocks. See that? See those white things? What we're looking at is a huge chunk of gas hydrate.
This is what they came for, the largest concentration of gas hydrate ever found on Earth. Beneath the layer of mud is a freak of chemistry. Hydrates are molecules of gas trapped inside molecules of water. They're compressed 160 times smaller than they would be at the surface. The area around the submarine could power a medium-sized city for a year. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. In the Gulf of Mexico, there could be enough energy to power the entire U.S. for 2,000 years. Some scientists estimate that there is enough gas hydrate on Earth to power the human race for 3,000 years. Finding rich deposits is just the first step on a long road. Scientists must learn how to extract gas hydrates without harming marine life. Then, the real work begins, converting them into clean energy. Like all fossil fuels, hydrates emit greenhouse gases when burned. Those gases must be trapped before hydrates can power your home. So where are the fuels that we can harvest now? One answer is blowing in the wind. Europe has only one major source of oil and gas, the North Sea. It once supplied 1/10 of the world's oil. Now, no place on Earth is running out of oil faster. the North Sea holds another kind of energy. Plentiful, renewable, and clean. The power of wind.
When I'm sailing here on a beautiful ship like this, on a day like this is my favorite place to be on the planet. The wind that we feel in the sails now is sufficient to provide electricity to every household in Holland.
Giant wind farms are the fastest growing energy source on Earth. And Building.the.Future is the architect of one of the biggest.
This wind farm is very much state-of-the-art. It's the combined effort of a large team of people working for many years to get Holland's first offshore wind farm off the ground.
This monumental feat of engineering begins on dry land. Transporting the turbine blades from the factory requires a military-style operation. Each blade is 140 feet of epoxy and carbon fiber, nearly half the length of a football field.
When I grew up, wind turbines were small machines that you would find in a farmer's backyard and that would supply enough power for the farm. In the late 90s, people were talking about wind turbines of a megawatt. Well, a megawatt of wind power is basically enough to give electricity to hundreds and hundreds of homes. And I thought that was a great concept. That was a vision that inspired me.
To work in one of the world's stormiest seas, the crews need a stable platform. The ship Sea Energy has 4 legs that descend 70 feet to the seabed. It takes a solid rock mooring to lift hundreds of tons of steel.
You're looking at some of the largest wind turbines that are ever being built on the planet.
Nearly 100 feet of the turbine is sunk into bedrock beneath the sea floor. Another 70 feet is underwater. The remaining 210 feet rises to the sky.
You want wind turbines to be big because big is beautiful in this business. It means it's efficient, it's powerful. It means that the turbine is high up in the sky where the wind is strong and the wind is more constant, so the energy is converted more efficiently. That's why wind turbines always have to be very tall.
Maneuvering these giant steel towers in the middle of the ocean is dangerous. So far, there have been no accidents, but one slip and everyone on board could be at risk. Never mind $4 million of custom engineering sent to the bottom of the sea. Because of the risks, they picked a foreman who knows the ocean.
Just trying to catch the foundation. It has a lot of swivel at the moment, so the crane, the whole ship is bending. That's why it's dancing a little bit now.
Once the tower is aligned with the foundation, the crew tightens the bolts, all 140. Next, a 20-story climb to attach the turbine. If all goes well, they can assemble the whole thing in 24 hours. On a calm day, the turbines go together like clockwork. But in the North Sea, the weather is fickle.
The Dutch winters can be pretty severe. We can have some high gales. We've had 14-meter waves during the construction phase already, and these turbines have not been harmed.
The North Sea is famed for its fury. But bad weather is why they're here. As warm winds from the Gulf Stream collide with frigid Arctic air, they produce turbulence, winds blowing up to gale force. As the air hits the turbines, it's the same force as several semi-trucks driving into the blades at full power. Inside the generator, wires spin at high speed through a magnetic field. Result? Electricity. Each turbine can power 3,000 homes.
They look pretty simple on the outside. Well, they're about as simple as aeroplanes. Inside the jet engine is very, very high tech. Inside these turbines is equally high tech.
Next step, attaching the engine room to the mast. The crane operator must line up his load within millimeters. It's like balancing a semi-truck on 4 basketballs, while buffeted by wind and swell. The final task is the most difficult and dangerous, attaching the third blade to the engine. The crew must perfectly line up all the bolts. Bend a single bolt and the whole turbine will have to be taken apart and hauled back to land. Huub's wind farm is complete. Now he can harvest power.
And I'm really very, very proud.
One day, wind could power all of Holland. But what of the calmer parts of the planet? Where do they turn for power? To the moon. How do you shut down an entire city? Simple. Pull the plug. August 14th, 2003. A small power surge in Ohio overwhelms the nation's power grid. A blackout sweeps across the East Coast. For nearly 24 hours, America's biggest city is powerless.
The blackout was terrible. We lost everything in this island. The whole New York City went down. There was no power. It was one of the worst days of my life. I was stuck on the train. I'll never forget that.
Gristedes Mega Market on Roosevelt Island was devastated.
We were not able to save any of the perishable foods. We lost thousands of dollars in meats, milks, just about everything that's perishable went down. It was a disaster. The more power we use, especially in the summer, the more likely we are to have a blackout.
The Big Apple guzzles power. Every day, New York City consumes more energy than many African countries. Now Gristedes, a Manhattan grocery store, will become the test site for an electrifying experiment. Creating homemade power.
And we feel like what's going on here today is a start at doing something profoundly different that'll have profound goodness for the rest of the planet.
Trey Taylor plans to give New York a new kind of energy. Safe, clean, limitless. His energy source literally surrounds Manhattan.
The water flows around New York City are much like an untapped battery of source of power, because it's not only this East River that we're crossing over right now, but it's also the Hudson River. So all of Manhattan, New York, its 5 boroughs are surrounded by moving water, tides and rivers. And that's a tremendous amount of power to be tapped.
Trey has spent 7 years developing the technology to harness that power. Each turbine will generate 35 kilowatts, enough to power 20 households for a year.
This system is an underwater wind turbine using the tidal currents to generate electricity. Now that hasn't been done before. With these first 2 turbines and the 4 to follow, it'll be the first field of underwater wind turbines producing electricity. And if we keep this up, we could make New York City the world's largest renewable energy city.
Trey's turbines are about to debut off Roosevelt Island. It's a partnership between the state of New York and private investors. The first to benefit will be Gristedes, just 10 feet from the river's edge.
They're the first takers of this power. It is going to work here. And then from New York, the rest of the United States, Canada, the UK, and then off we go into the developing countries.
They begin by anchoring a barge that can lower legs into the river and jack itself up. A safe platform to work on. They'll need it. Dutch sailors named this channel Hell's Gate. Every 6 hours, the gravitational pull of the moon forces tides to rage through the East River.
These currents are moving at about 4 knots, and that's about the speed of a sailboat goes. That's really very fast water. But for us, that's good. That's a lot of energy in that kind of water.
2 divers will bolt the turbines onto their foundations on the riverbed. It's only safe to dive between the tides when the water is briefly calm. Their window, less than an hour. The race against the clock begins. If the divers don't finish in time, they could be swept away, turbines and all. 15 feet underwater, the visibility is an arm's length.
And on the bottom.
It's so dark below, the divers need a compass to guide the turbines into place.
Yeah, 2 pulses about 245. Roger. 225. 245.
Full stop. Full stop.
With more than 4 tons of steel overhead, it's a touchy moment for everyone.
Swing it back a touch. Swing back to the left a touch, Roger. Roger that.
There are risks. If they release it and this thing yaws or the current's picked up enough, it could spin and it could hit the diver, hurt the diver.
Just a touch down, Roger. Full stop.
Nice.
The number 1 turbine is in place.
Beautiful, Ben.
Half the battle is won. Now, to generate electricity. The tide is going out with the force of 2,400 stampeding horses. But the sensors detect a problem. Turbine number 1 isn't working.
Holy mackerel, is there any way they can get it up?
I'm going to say that this rotor is not strong enough for this current.
The current has smashed all 3 blades.
The first turbine is broken. And the reason that it broke is we were putting it under a number of stresses, which really told us how much power is in this river. It's tremendous forces. We tested it to the extent that it broke.
All hopes now ride on turbine number 2. The tide changes and the current picks up speed. It's working. Inside the turbine, a wire spins within a magnetic field. Electrons inside the wire pulse back and forth.
We got power?
We do. We have power.
And without interruption, it feeds electricity to Gristedes supermarket.
Congratulations, everybody.
The store is now powered by the tide.
I understand that the tides create the power. Unless the moon falls off the sky, we're going to have power. That's a very important aspect for this store. It's revolutionary. This is the future.
This calls for a celebratory toast.
Trey has worked 7 years for this moment.
We've been working for a long time to get to this point, and it's like a sense of relief. We made it. We're here now. And everything else from this point forward will just keep getting better.
Eventually, Trey hopes to provide 1/10 of all of New York's power from the tides. Maybe more.
If we can begin to harness moving water, which is abundant, I mean, 2/3 of the planet's covered by water, that gives me such an exciting feeling. That's really where I draw my passion from that. And if you think for a moment of the current in the Gulf Stream, there's enough power out there to create more electricity than the entire United States is making right now could happen in the Gulf Stream.
Tidal turbines are driven by the pull of the moon. But why stop there? Why not reach for the stars? How long do we have before we run out of fuel? Cheap oil and gas may last decades. Coal could last centuries. But a more pressing deadline looms. The threat? Global warming, fueled by burning coal and oil. Australia has a dirty secret. a continent famed for its beauty, is powered by the world's filthiest source of energy. Australia's cities all run on coal. Burning it produces heavy metals, acid rain, and global warming. And the average Australian uses more coal than almost anyone on Earth. Australia needs help to clean up its act, and help lies in its own backyard. "400 miles southeast of Sydney, in the middle of nowhere, burns a spark of invention. In this lonely corner of the outback, creating clean energy is one man's dream.
That dream became a passion. And from a passion, it's become an almost unhealthy obsession.
Roger Davey is obsessed with an overlooked source of power, the sun. Here they see so much of it, they've given the area a name. Roger Davey will build a solar plant on the scale never seen before.
It is spectacular. The top of the tower would be right at about our eyesight as we're situated right now, and about 65 metres across, or what's that, about 190 feet in diameter.
He calls it the Solar Power Tower. It will be the world's biggest solar power plant, and one of the tallest objects ever built. It will rise to 2,000 feet, hundreds of feet taller than the highest skyscraper. Around the base, a sheet of glass 6 times the size of New York's Central Park. Unlike traditional solar plants, Roger's tower is powered by the same principle that keeps this balloon aloft: rising hot air. The sun's rays beat down on the glass and heat the air trapped underneath.
Hot air rises, so the air runs towards the centre where the tower is situated. And just like a cold day when you light a fire, the smoke goes whoosh up the chimney, runs through turbines, the turbines spin through the generators, generating electricity, which I think is almost the holy grail of renewable energy.
The energy feeds into a grid station just 5 miles away. The tower will produce enough energy to power 100,000 homes without burning a single lump of coal. The effect on air quality? Like taking 90,000 cars off the road.
It is clean, it is green, it is the way of the future.
In Australia, they're tapping the sun. In Britain, they're creating the sun. Here on Earth. Our sun is almost 1.5 million times bigger than Earth. A giant ball of pure energy. Just 1 second of the sun's energy would power Earth for 1 million years. What fuels the sun is a nuclear reaction called fusion. Capture just a fraction of this power, and we solve our energy needs forever. These scientists are about to recreate the power of the sun. They'll use one of the most complex machines ever built. Next to NASA's space station, this is the largest science project in the world. It took thousands of scientists 29 years to build. Its aim? To control one of the most powerful forces in the universe.
Fusion is important because it's something that's going to give us a really, really long-term sustainable energy source.
What Hugh and his colleagues achieve here could fulfill what's now just a dream. An unlimited supply of cheap, clean energy.
We are taking the power source of the sun, which is something very ambitious and I think it's something very worthwhile attempting to do.
In 1945, the world discovered the power of splitting the atom. All nuclear power today splits atoms, called nuclear fission. From the beginning, it's been controversial. But imagine a nuclear reactor that leaves no deadly radioactive waste. A reactor that can't melt down, and that uses an unlimited, clean source of fuel. Fusion. Inside the torus reactor, atoms aren't split apart, they're fused together. A cleaner process that uses no radioactive plutonium or uranium. The fuel for fusion is hydrogen. Hydrogen atoms are heated to 150 million degrees, 10 times hotter than the sun's core. At this extreme temperature, the atoms turn into plasma. The plasma atoms collide and fuse. The reaction releases a neutron of pure energy. It's 1 million times more efficient than today's nuclear power, and 1 trillion times more efficient than fossil fuel. Clean energy, but a risky process. More than 160 safety checks take place before the countdown. If one is missed, the forces inside the machine could escape.
Everything we do, we need to be totally sure we've got everything right. We can't afford any mistakes, and it can be a little bit tense at times.
To protect the scientists, the machine is encased inside 6 feet of concrete and steel. Even so, the scientists work from the safety of a separate building.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
A camera records the reaction. The glowing light is plasma heated to 150 million degrees. The reaction produces energy just like our sun. In mere seconds, fusion here on Earth.
We did good.
That was excellent. That worked exactly as we wanted it.
It's perfect.
I'm happy. I think the scientific coordinators are very happy. You can see lots of smiles and that, so, which is good.
Nowhere in the world have scientists come closer to creating the ultimate energy source. And the fuel for fusion is virtually unlimited.
1 bathful of water would provide enough energy through fusion to supply one person with all their energy needs. So their transport, their heating, their food, their industrial needs for 30 years.
Because fusion uses water, there are no security risks, no meltdowns, no downside at all to living next door to a fusion reactor. But don't look for one soon. Scientists estimate it will take 50 years before we have a working fusion power plant.
This is a very long-term strategy. This isn't something that's suddenly going to produce a result tomorrow and solve all our problems. So we will get there. I don't think we have any choice.
While we wait for fusion, the world will need every other source of clean energy. Because if we don't clean up our act, Mother Nature has a nasty surprise. Storms. Floods. Drought. UN scientists say we have just 10 years to mend our ways.
We can't afford to sit back and just wait and see what happens. If we want to deal with the future challenges of climate change, we have to act today.
The solutions are already here. Tides could power cities. The sun could fuel nations. The wind could light up continents.
This is the kind of strategy that the human race needs to follow and maybe should have been following for a long time in the past, looking not just to the next 10 or 20 years, but looking to the next 50 or 100 years. I know that what I'm doing is for my future and my children's future. I know that this is something good and worthwhile doing.
Imagine a world where energy is clean and limitless, where powering the Earth doesn't cost the Earth. Today, a few visionaries share this dream. Tomorrow, we may all be living in it.